Welcome to part 2 of the Sage College's new student online training. In this session, we will talk about the student conduct process as outlined in the code, including what happens before, during, and after a student conduct proceeding. Following the completion of this video, you will need to complete the associated quiz. Instructions for the completion of this quiz will be provided at the end of this presentation. Meet Steve. He's a first-year student at Sage College of Albany, and to celebrate his 18th birthday, he decides to treat himself and his buddies to a few bottles of the cheapest liquor they can get their hands on. Unfortunately, things get a little out of control in his residence hall room, and that attracts the attention of a public safety officer doing rounds in the building. The party is over, but Steve's journey through the student conduct process is just beginning. Misconduct and charges. Incidents of potential misconduct are recorded in reports from public safety, residence life, local law enforcement, student life, or, in the case of academic misconduct, in letters from faculty members. These reports do not make a judgment of innocence or guilt. They simply tell the who, what, where, when, and why of the incidents they document. In Steve's case, the public safety officer responding to his room would have logged Steve's name and age, as well as the names and ages of those present in the room with him. The amount and type of alcohol they were consuming is also recorded, as is the general scene the officer discovered upon entering the room. Reports are then sent to the Chief Conduct Officer, who reviews them and assigns charges based on the information in the report. Our friend Steve would most likely be charged with violating Policy 16 of the Student Code of Conduct, which states that alcoholic beverages may not in any circumstance be used by, possessed by, or distributed to any person under 21 years of age. The Chief Conduct Officer then decides whether charges will be resolved by mutual consent with a Student Conduct Administrator or with a full hearing. All conduct information is presented to students in writing, and Sage email accounts will be used for official communication pertaining to conduct matters. These letters will contain not only the charges, but also the date and time of conduct meetings or hearings, the reports upon which the charges are based, and contact information for the conduct administrator in charge of the case. Conduct meetings and hearings are scheduled to take place between 5 and 15 days after the charge letter is sent out. The only acceptable reason for rescheduling a conduct meeting is an academic conflict. If you need to reschedule a conduct meeting, you must do so before the date of the hearing. If a student has a conduct case pending, degrees, grade reports, and transcripts will not be issued until the matter is resolved. This is the case even if the student withdraws from Sage. The charges must be resolved before any of those records can be released. Mutual consent. Mutual consent meetings are held between the charged students and a single conduct administrator. Both the charges and the potential sanctions are discussed. If students agree to accept responsibility for the violations of college policy as well as the assigned sanctions, the case is considered closed. However, if the student admits to violating institutional rules but sanctions cannot be agreed upon, subsequent process, including a hearing if necessary, shall be limited to determining the appropriate sanctions. If the student does not take responsibility for the misconduct at all, a full hearing will be scheduled. Hearings. Hearings are conducted in private with only the charged student or students, their advisor, the conduct administrator, and the complainant present. Admission of other parties into the hearing is at the sole discretion of the conduct administrator. Hearings for misconduct involving more than one student may be conducted either separately or jointly. If an accused student with notice does not appear at a hearing, the information in support of the charges shall be presented and considered, and a decision reached, even if the accused student is not present. All hearings are recorded. Hearings continued. Students are allowed to have an advisor present. The advisor must be a member of the college's community unless one of the charges includes Section 4A-3, which is actual or threatened physical violence, intimidation, or coercion. In this case, students may select anyone to be their advisor, including an attorney. However, regardless of who a student selects, no advisor is permitted to speak or to participate directly in any Student Conduct Board hearing. Students are allowed to present evidence on their own behalf, including calling witnesses. The student must inform the college administrator of any witnesses they wish to call ahead of the hearing date. At the conclusion of the hearing, the conduct administrator will weigh the evidence in private and send a decision via Sage email to the student. Making the decision. College hearings are not a court of law, and the idea of reasonable doubt does not come into play when deciding the outcome of a hearing. Conduct administrators base their decision on whether it is more likely than not that the accused student violated the Student Code of Conduct. For more information on the hearing process, please see Section 5A of the Student Code of Conduct. Sanctions. Should you be found in violation of one or more college policies, you will be assigned sanctions. Sanctions are designed to be educational in nature and can include any of the following. Written warning. A notice in writing to the student explaining college policies for the purpose of clarification. The warning stands as an official notification that should further incidents occur, the student will be held accountable and that future violations will likely result in a more serious level of sanctioning. Disciplinary probation. A written reprimand for violation of specified regulations. Probation is for a designated period of time and includes the probability of more severe disciplinary sanctions if the student is found to be violating any institutional regulations during that period. Loss of privileges. Denial of specified privileges for a designated period of time. Fines. Previously established fines may be imposed. Restitution. Compensation for loss, damage, or injury. This may take the form of appropriate service and/or monetary or material replacement. Discretionary sanctions. Work assignments, service to the colleges, parental notification, written apology, or other related discretionary assignments. Parental or guardian notification. In certain circumstances, the college reserves the right to notify or require the student themselves to notify parents, guardians of dependent students when college policies have been violated. Residence hall suspension. Suspension is separation of the student from the residence halls for a definite period of time, without refund, after which the student is eligible to return. Conditions for readmission may be specified. Residence hall expulsion. Permanent separation of the student from the residence halls, without refund. College suspension. Separation of the student from the college for a definite period of time, without a refund, after which the student is eligible to return. Conditions for readmission may be specified. Administrative suspension for health reasons. Separation of the student from the college for a definite period of time, after which the student is eligible to return. This suspension may be imposed when a student poses imminent danger to him or herself, to another person or persons, or poses a threat of disruption or interference with the normal operations of the Sage colleges. Procedures are outlined at sage.edu/studentlife/beta-team. Expulsion. Permanent separation from the college without refund. Revocation of degree. The Sage colleges may revoke an issued degree due to fraud, misrepresentation, or other violation of Sage College standards in obtaining the degree, or for other serious violations committed by a student prior to graduation. Withholding of degree. Sage may withhold awarding a degree otherwise earned until the completion of the process set forth in the Student Conduct Code, including the completion of all sanctions imposed, if any. Prohibition from professional practice. Sage may take any and all steps it deems necessary to prohibit, limit, or monitor the current or future practice of a profession by an individual found to have committed misconduct. For example, notifying the appropriate agency overseeing the profession. Mandatory assessment or counseling. The Student Conduct Administrator may order a student to participate in psychological counseling or assessment, either on or off campus. Failure to attend or actively participate in good faith in counseling sessions may warrant the imposition of additional or different sanctions. Academic dishonesty sanctions. Sanctions for academic dishonesty may include a written reprimand, a 0 or F on the assignments involved, an F in the class involved, revocation or change of grade, suspension from the college for 1 term, suspension from the college for 1 year, permanent dismissal from the college, revocation of degree. For more information on sanctions, please see Section 5B of the Student Code of Conduct. Interim suspension. In certain circumstances, the Vice President for Student Life or a designee may impose a college suspension prior to the hearing before a Student Conduct Board. Reasons for interim suspension may be to ensure the immediate safety and well-being of the members of the Sage College's community or preservation of the Sage College's property, to ensure the student's own immediate physical or emotional safety and well-being, if the student poses an immediate threat of or disruption of or interference with the normal operations of Sage Colleges. During the interim suspension, students shall be denied access to the campus, including classes, and or all other college activities or privileges which the student might otherwise be eligible. In the case of residence hall violations, interim suspension from residence hall may be warranted. However, the student may be still allowed to attend classes and participate in campus activities that are not conducted in the residence hall. Any student who is placed on interim suspension will be notified in writing of this action and the reasons for the suspension. The notice will include the time, date, and place of a subsequent hearing at which the student may show cause why his or her continued presence on the campus does not constitute a threat, and at which time he or she may contest whether a campus rule was violated. For more information on interim suspension, please see Section 5C of the Student Conduct Code. Appeals. Students can appeal the results of their hearing for one of 4 reasons: whether the penalty is appropriate to the finding, whether the finding is supported by the evidence, whether the student's procedural rights as specified in the Student Conduct Code were violated, or whether new evidence which was unavailable at the original proceeding has been discovered. Appeals must be submitted in writing to the appellate officer listed on the decision letter within 2 days of the decision. For more information on the appeals process, please see Section 5D of the Student Code of Conduct. Congratulations! You have now completed the video portion of Part 2, the Student Conduct Process. Please proceed to Quiz 2, the Student Conduct Process, and complete the assessment. Students are required to score at least 90% to pass the course. You may retake the quiz as many times as you need. After you finish the quiz, you can move on to Part 3 of the new student online training, which will discuss academic dishonesty.